Update. My 57 female daughter, 30 female, is getting married for the third time. I do not want to pay for her wedding and feel like a bad parent. Original story. I should start by saying that my daughter is an only child. She has always been our princess, so to speak, and she's received everything material that a girl could ask for. Before you criticize my husband, her father, and I for spoiling her, we do realize that we shouldn't have given her everything from a young age, but we didn't know any better back then. And we had the money and were quite well off, so we figured why not support our only child. My husband owns his own business and I am a school teacher. Together we make decent money that I'm looking to retire in the near future. When we first started out, I stayed at home and my husband worked an office job, and so my daughter has been pampered with all of my attention and her father's support. She's now going to be married for the third time in her short life. Her only job is occasionally supplying teaching in the same school board I work at, so she doesn't have much of a big career yet, but I do hope she will find work. I'll spare you the long of it. She married her high school boyfriend at 22 years old, and they divorced less than 2 years later in a bitter fight. The wedding was lavish, as it was her first, and we truly believed that they would make it work. I guess my husband and I also saw through rose-colored glasses since we were married very young as well, and are approaching our 35th anniversary. My husband and I pitched in around $25,000 for the wedding ceremony and reception, and perhaps another $3,000 for their honeymoon to Europe. The second time she was proposed to by another man she was dating. He was a hard-working blue-collar man, but his family didn't have much money. Again, she asked if we could help out with her wedding, that it was true love this time around. We met the man that he was a stand-up, wholesome person, and so a year after that, my daughter, then 27, was married to the second husband. We paid for most of the wedding cost at the honeymoon to the tune of $43,000. Her then-husband's mother was a nurse, and his father was a deadbeat. They didn't provide much when it came to the wedding itself, and I admit, husband and I did harbor ill will towards the fact that her husband's father's name was clearly printed on the reception and invitations as a generously contributing member of the wedding party. But that's another story. They divorced because of money issues less than 3 years later. We, tired by this time, forked over money for her divorce costs and tried to regroup our finances. We do have a comfortable nest egg saved up for our post-retired life. I would like to travel the world and maybe buy a small lake house with my husband. He also enjoys woodworking as a hobby. But now my daughter, who has begun dating another man, it has exotically showed us that she's engaged once again. The man in question proposed less than a year into their dating, and she's elated more than anything, because after her second divorce, she didn't think any man would want her anymore. My daughter has hinted at wedding costs and brings home bridal magazines and ideas for cakes and dresses and venues. I don't want to be happy for her happiness, but there is a voice inside me that is screaming, enough. We have spent almost over $140,000 of my husband's and my money for my daughter's 2 failed marriages. Wedding, reception, honeymoon costs, divorce costs. And I cannot believe she's thinking of planning another lavish ceremony at our expense. I've tried suggesting maybe this time she should opt for a small backyard ceremony this time, but she turns it around on us and says that we don't believe in her happiness, and that we are being cheap. She's our only daughter, and her father and I are quite well off. Which, to be fair, she is right. I'm at a loss of what to say to her. Now for the top advice before reading the update. You are continuing to feed into your 30-year-old daughter's spoiled princess lifestyle. She should have been thrilled with 1 wedding, and she got 2. Cinderella needs a reality check. When she starts talking about wedding plans, tell her that you and your husband have talked, and your budget will gladly allow you to pay for her cake. If she whines about you not loving her and believing in her happiness but not financing the entire wedding/honeymoon, pull out her 2 wedding albums. Tell her she had planned 2 beautiful, expensive weddings, but all the money spent on that day did not make love develop or grow in those marriages. Money doesn't equal happiness or love. You support her decision to marry this man and will gladly attend the ceremony however/wherever they want to do. But this is not going to be on your dime as you have retirement to plan ahead. So lots of people have told you that you shouldn't pay. What I haven't seen yet is someone saying she will probably throw an epic tantrum when you put your foot down, and you will have to stick it out or she will win. And the next time you try to put your foot down, she'll throw an even bigger tantrum. This is a well-known and researched behavioral phenomenon known as extinction, which is what happens when you stop reinforcing behavior that used to be reinforced. If you don't firmly say no and stick with it, you are forever screwed. She will say mean things. She'll get really nasty. Stay calm and don't budge. This is a 30-year-old toddler that you've created. All the times you didn't say, no, we're going to bite you in the butt here. And I'm saying be ready. Do not let her manipulate you on this one. It's totally in your power not to write that check. For what it's worth, my well-off parents gave me $5,000 for my wedding in 2008, and I would never freaking dream of asking for their financial support for a second wedding. This exactly. The daughter may even hate herself for throwing the tantrum while it's happening, but that's not going to stop it. It will feel like a part of her identity is being lost and will hurt. Just the sort of pain that makes a person better. And avoid a direct, no, I'm not paying, will only make the situation worse. It already sounds like she's suffering from all this spoiling, that she doesn't understand relationships well and might feel she needs one in order to feel good about herself. By continuing to throw money at her, you're enabling her, and continuing the inner mental pain that can only be fixed by growing up, not with money. If you pay for this wedding, start saving for the fourth one. That's what I was thinking. Perhaps being an entitled princess has contributed to the 2 failed marriages. They've raised the monster. Jesus, I feel sorry, not sorry, for them. Now for the update 1 year later. Hello, it's been a long time. I wanted to retroactively thank everyone for the advice and the anger. Must admit that hearing others rage about my situation was pretty cathartic for me. I wasn't going to log back in to post an update. I couldn't even recall the password for this throwaway account. But so many of you gave me excellent advice that I feel I must give an update. Sad as it is. Long story short, my daughter is getting her 3rd divorce. We are no longer in speaking terms, and she has broken our hearts. Short story long, as many of you predicted, she threw a great big tantrum when her father and I told her explicitly that we would not be paying for the wedding this time around. We said we would buy her a wedding dress and a cake, but that would be the end of it. That whatever else she wanted would have to come from her and her husband's pocketbook. She said we don't care for her happiness. She cried. She said that we were selfish. Everything all of you said was going to happen. All these things hurt so much to hear because they aren't true. We do care very much for her, but enough was simply enough. She went so far as to chuck her wedding planner binder to the backyard pool, which was grotesque to watch. We asked to meet the fiancé in question over dinner, and what a gem he was. Tattoos all over his knuckles and his neck. Showed up to meet us in sweatpants and an ill-fitting hoodie. Didn't even shake our hand or introduce himself properly. Looked like a trailer trash. When we asked what his occupation was, he said he was a sound technician, which made me feel embarrassed for being so prejudiced. But after a quick conversation at the dinner table, where he behaved in the most disgusting manner, it turns out that he is a freelance DJ. At 39 years old, I believe one should at least be put together, not living with other roommates and working at clubs on weekends. My daughter, I do not know what was wrong with her. She looked at him with such adoring eyes, as if he were the best thing since sliced bread. We doubted that he could provide for himself, let alone a family. I don't know if this was a sign, but a side of this man-boy solidified our decision to not finance a drop of our daughter's 3rd wedding. We still agreed to pay for the cake and the dress, but no more. We even had doubts that maybe this thug was only planning to marry our daughter for the money. We assumed it was true, when we found out she had been paying for a few months' worth of his rent that he could not afford to pay out of her own pocket. Like I said, I don't know what was wrong with her. We gave her a budget of $13,000 for a beautiful dress, and maybe another $2,000 for the cake. The wedding planning itself was a disaster, as my daughter had a meltdown over every single little thing that went wrong, even though I tried to tell her that she could use the $15,000 budget to plan the entire wedding, instead of just spending it on the dress and the cake alone. That was our intention, that maybe she could scale back the dress and cake for a more humble affair. Maybe it would teach her the value of $1. She would not budge. She did not invite us to the wedding, let alone the reception. We don't even know how it was, as we were not shown any photographs afterward. I spent the entire week crying when I found out she had left us out of the wedding party. She came back a few times with a U-Haul and her disgusting husband to take her possessions from our home and moved in with him. While my husband and I were gone on a vacation to New Orleans right before Christmas, we had received several voicemails from our daughter. Her voice was slurring, as if she had been heavily drinking or on drugs. She said that she was going to divorce as he was a freaking deadbeat who couldn't even treat her to a nice dinner. She said she's had to sell her engagement ring to pay the rent, that she's still living with his roommates, and that this is the part that just sends me into anger. If only we had paid for her wedding and helped her buy home with him. This wasn't even discussed between us. I do not know where she got this idea from, that she would have made this marriage last. If we had given her more money. My God, what have we done? I'm shaking with anger just typing this. My husband wanted to leave her a seething voicemail. I talked him out of it. As far as we know, she has moved forward with a divorce. We will be here for her. We will take her back into our home, but only if she wishes. At this point, we have heard nothing from her, and she does not pick up her phone. It is so easy to blame ourselves for being bad parents, and I just feel so awful. She's our only child, and if any of our nieces or nephews behaved this way to our siblings, we would have cut them out of the family in a second. But we can't. She is our only child, now 31 years old and a thrice divorcee. It pains me so much what has happened over the last year. I feel like I've lost a daughter. Just my impressions here, it isn't the man she wants, it's the wedding themselves. The attention she receives. It seems like she's attracted to that specifically. She's so used to being special that she is trying to increase the number of times, in ways that she feels special. Please, if she does ask to move in with you, and I know you won't be able to say no, have a caveat that she will attend counseling regularly to help her discover the root of her issues. There is something in her life she isn't getting, and she's trying to achieve it by marrying over and over again. A therapist or a psychiatrist may be her only chance. When people are enabled by others for so long, their emotional maturity tends to be stunted. At least that's what I've observed in regards to some of my friends. I am genuinely worried, / curious what will happen to them when their parents aren't able to support them the way they're used to being supported. Yep, this is a result of how a snowflake was raised. Most of the adults I know freaking hate the prospect of having to borrow money from their parents. Princess's entitlement here started long before 30 years old. We will be here for her. We will take her back into our homes, but only if she wishes. I know you think this is going to help her, but have you not yet figured out that this is just another way in which you have enabled her to be responsible? Perhaps you can compromise by requiring she sees a therapist weekly if she lives with you. I'm also sad for her and she needs help. Make it family therapy. You offered her $15,000 after she behaved like that? Are you out of your mind? I feel like I've lost a daughter. This might sound like a difficult truth to hear, but you are not listening. You never had one. You raised a hell spawn. You enabled her. You paid for 2 divorces and weddings. She's 30 years old, for God's sake. Money will not buy love. Hell, $15,000 didn't even buy you a ticket to your own spawn's wedding. That if only we had paid for her wedding and helped her buy home with him. This wasn't even discussed between us. I do not know where she got this idea from, that she would have made this marriage last. If we had given her more money. You mean nothing to her. Do you not see that? You are a source of easy money. You always have been. All she needs to do is scream and shout and cry, and you'll throw thousands and thousands of dollars at her. Stop giving her money. Do not let her back into your home. Stop enabling this monster that you created. She is not a daughter. She is a cancer. Remove her. Now for the last story. My sister and I stopped speaking after her child-free wedding. Now she wants to attend mine. Family side with her. I'm 26, she's 31. Around the time my sister got married, I had a lot going on. I was divorcing, had 2 kids under 2, and me attending her wedding would require an overnight trip, which I was prepared to do, until I found out with less than a week to go that it was child-free. I called her and said I couldn't make it. She didn't take it well. We both said things we shouldn't have and we both apologized, but when we made up, she asked if I could come to the wedding now, and I said no as the circumstances hadn't changed, at which point the argument started up all over again. The day of the wedding, she sent me a series of messages about how she wanted me there, and she needed some time before we talked next, so I needed to wait for her to contact me. That was 3 years ago, and we still haven't spoken. I got engaged 2 months ago, and we told my family a month ago. One of my parents told my sister, who contacted me. I ignored her because in the last 3 years I've moved on. I'm happy she had her wedding her way, but she knew it would cause issues for me, which is why she told me last minute. She said some things about my kids and me that I can't forgive, and if not for me getting engaged, she might have never reached out to me again, as it's been nearly 3 years. So clearly my ongoing presence in her life is not a big deal to her. I've explained my feelings to my family, but they want me to meet with her, hear her out, and invite her to the wedding. I ask what happens if I don't do that, and their responses have ranged from being mildly put out to not going in solidarity. I've asked where this response was when I couldn't go to her wedding, and they've said it's different because I had an invitation while she doesn't. I don't want to get into a debate about me attending her wedding or her coming to mine. I just want some advice on how to address this whole issue with my family in regards to them choosing sides, as I would like them to be at my wedding, but I'm still not inviting my sister. Now for the top advice. I'm sure some won't agree, but I wouldn't bat an eye at anyone saying they wouldn't go in solidarity. If something that silly will prevent them from showing up to my wedding, it's probably best that they not come. I want people that are supportive at my wedding. Might as well put my efforts and attention into those that deserve it. Amen. Anyone who says they'll boycott your wedding out of solidarity can sure handle the response. If that's how you feel, I agree it's best that you not attend. Or, sorry to hear that, we'll miss you, if you want to be more diplomatic. I mean, I could understand if it was solidarity for good reason, but having a cry because someone didn't invite you to their wedding when you didn't talk to them for 3 years is not a good reason. If they wouldn't attend your wedding just because you won't do what they're demanding of you, then do you really want them there or in your life at all? If you do what they want just to have them at your wedding, they will know they can demand other things of you anytime they want, and they will do so. If you want your sister at your wedding, or if you want to hear what she has to say, then meet up with her. But don't let other people push you into it if it wasn't what you want. I do want them in my life, as they're my family, and I love them and my kids love them. But if having them in my life means having my sister, I would need to think that one over. I don't want my sister there. I don't want to talk to her at all. My other sisters are fine, as are my brothers and most of my family, but I don't want this sister in attendance.